What is up, people? What is up, people? Hey, Sumit. How's it going, buddy? Thanks for joining the stream again. I'm not sure how many guys were there in the yesterday stream, but the stream was kind of cut short because of a streaming error. So I scheduled another stream today so we can talk in depth about Firebase and how you can connect your Flutter application with Firebase, and it's going to be kind of a yeah, I know. Yesterday's stream was offline for some time because there was a streaming error and it kind of like ended right there. So it's been fixed now. I'll try to talk in depth about how Firebase, and we'll just go over all the steps that we did yesterday. And from there on, we'll try to work out how to connect our application much more easily and faster. So that's what I'm trying to do, or I'm going to be trying to do for this session. Yeah. I'll probably give another minute to wait for people to join. But in the meantime, we can probably have open for questions. As to if you guys have any questions, you can let me know and I'll be able to answer them. I'm just setting my environment up so that we can have a good discussion today. Let me check. Okay, everything looks fine. All right. Yes, so we'll be talking about CRUD or CRUD, or whatever you want to call it. We're going to be primarily talking about Firebase, and we'll just quickly go over how to do that step from the base. And I'll show you guys how the entire Firebase CRUD operations work. So we'll be having this stream for about 50 minutes, 55 minutes maximum. I'll try to cover as much as possible in that given time. Awesome. So let's get moving on. I'm pretty sure that whoever is watching this stream, I'll just give the basics of how we did and what we did yesterday. And from there on, we'll try to build or connect our Flutter application back to Firebase. We'll look into the connection portion of things. And once that is done, we'll quickly go over, probably look into understanding in depth about what are the different operations that you can do with Firebase and how the real-time database with Firebase works. So that's going to be like my bunch of like full entire session going to be covering that part. So to begin with, yesterday we were looking into what exactly is Firebase. So we were talking about what Firebase is, and Firebase is this Google's cloud or software as a service that they are giving us with bunch of different things. This is similar to Amazon Web Services. It's also similar to Microsoft Azure, where all of these have bunch of different applications in the everyday world, starting from if you want to scale your startup faster, if you want to build things faster, and all of these are going to be on-demand stuff that is being run on the cloud, and Firebase is giving that for us, and it's a very simple tool. It's also free for the most part, and we are going to be looking into all the applications that are available. For this one, I'm going to specifically target the Firebase's real-time database, or the cloud store, as we call it. And as you can see, there's a bunch of functionalities that are possible with Firebase, starting with running your machine learning model. You can even do authorization with it, and also even run analytics on it, and all of those things are possible. So for this session, I'm going to be primarily targeting connecting our Flutter application that we have right here. And we did build a Flutter application yesterday. So I'll just run this on my store. So I'm actually spinning up an emulator, and I'm going to be showing you how that works pretty fine. Right, let's test it out. All right, this looks like it's looking like it's not going to go away. Let me check. It's actually a very crude application that we built yesterday. I'm going to go over everything from the scratch again and showing you how this entire thing works. So we have been working on a simple Flutter application for the last 3 sessions. And yesterday we looked into handling or connecting our Flutter application with the cloud's Firebase. Now, just a quick look into what Firebase looks like. And this is the probably this is the link to that exact thing. You'll go to firebase.google.com, make sure to log in, and you will see this space here. You can take a look into all those things that are possible. You can build, you can release, you can even do all sorts of things. And just one quick note, I should say, or quick tip or something like that, you can think of Firebase as the mechanism or the services that are being offered by Google for for building products and things like that on the cloud. And it has bunch of free applications also. The most used application is the analytics, which you will find especially in your Play Store applications. If you release something on the Play Store, you will find that there are a lot of analytical information that it is able to give us, and it's of immense use. And we're going to be trying to specifically work with the Cloud Firestore today, and I'll show you how to and what to do with that. All right, let's get probably started, and I'm going to be just taking a look into what is actually happening. All right, I think it's probably having some bunch of random stuff that we did yesterday, so I'll quickly remove all that. Yeah, all right, so I'm going to remove, nothing else is there. Yeah, this is there, we'll remove from that as well. All right, so run it again and we will see it happening on the Firebase application. All right, let this sit down for a while. I'm not going to be primarily talking, or we're going to not be going to be running the code. Let the code run on its own time. I'll show you what we are going to be doing. And if you run your Flutter application, the first thing you need to do is to make sure that you are setting up your Flutter's pub spec.yaml. And we did do a session on what dependencies are and how to add dependencies into your system or into your Flutter applications. You can think of dependencies as a simple mechanism where the application or the Flutter application that you're going to build is able to pick things from. Open a new slide so I can talk about it. What happens is that when you think of dependencies, these are basically code or modules. You can think of Dart files that need not necessarily always stay on your side of or you needn't always write it. So how dependencies work is that, let's say that you have this big application, and this big application is about 30 MB in size. Right, it's a very big application, and you cannot always add code to it. You cannot like add bunch of like, you there is no need to add code that can be modularized and sent into some kind of a remote repository. And what happens is that when the Flutter application is trying to build it, it will automatically pull the code from the remote repository, and it will automatically try to get all the dependencies that are required for the app to build, and it will pull it from the Flutter or the pub.dev. So this is the location from where it is going to be pulling data from. And once it pulls the data from there, it will automatically build your application and you have an APK out. And this is basically how the dependencies work. And this is also something very frequently seen in release applications. Basically, take any application that you want. You want to take Facebook, you want to take Instagram. You do find that there are a bunch of updates that keep on going, right? You'll find there's a new version for this, please update, and things like that. How does that happen? All they do is just add things to the dependency, and our application is or the Flutter, or for that matter any kind of apps, are smarter enough to understand that there is a new update on this, so I'm going to just download it for the user's purpose. So that's what the dependencies do mean. So in order to do that, we're going to be adding the first dependency that is going to be used by the Flutter, which is called as the Firebase core. So you're going to be adding the first I should say the dependency, which is the Firebase core. Followed by that, we're going to be also adding the next dependency, which is the Firebase database. Now, in this session, I'm going to be primarily talking about how to store some data on the cloud. Especially in this class, we're going to be talking about storing it on a Firebase cloud. Firebase gives us the mechanism to store data, something called as real-time database, and we're going to be putting data inside it and seeing how that thing works out fine. Let's start. So we'll just go to console here. Just click on the go to console, And you'll find that there's a bunch of things that I've built already, and there's a bunch of things that are already present. And first thing you need to do is just click on the add project, and as soon as you click on the add project section, it asks you to give it a name. Yesterday we gave it a name like assignment to Flutter assignment to, so I'll just try to give it some other name today. So I'll just assignment to probably call it assignment to app. So this is something we are trying to build a simple assignment application, and we're just trying to see how this thing works. And click on continue, and this is another interesting feature that I talked about in the start. It gives a lot of analytics for us to actually handle. It says free unlimited reporting, and this is actually free for everybody. It doesn't matter you are a premium user, it doesn't matter if you're a free user. Flutter or the Google is able to give us this many items without even having to do any sort of you don't have to do any sort of add extra code or anything of that sort. It will automatically give you all those things as soon as you link your Flutter application with the Firebase. And we're just going to turn it off for now because it takes a lot of time for it to create a new Firebase project. So I'll just continue or create the project. It will take some time. Let me quickly check if okay. This is going to be the base application that we're going to try to work out for this one. So it's as simple like an image. I'll try to think of this as my user image. You can give any image that you want here. So what I'm going to try to do is below this user image, I'm going to be adding 3 important fields. I'll add the field as the student ID. The next field I'm going to try to add is assignment number, and the third is going to be like some information like your assignment number, student ID, and let's add date of birth. Yesterday we added date of birth. We can add any number there. We can add some kind of a message or something like that. And when you click on the submit data, for now, if you click on the submit data, it'll just take us to another page and it'll just load some data inside it. And I'm okay with this page loading, but what I want to do is when I click on this data, I wanted to store that data into a database. And what we're going to do or see now is where the database is going to lie. Yesterday I talked about in depth into what a local storage is and what a cloud storage is, and what is the purpose and what is the pros and cons of both. So for this one, we're going to be primarily looking into a cloud-based database. And what cloud-based database gives us, it is able to give us this amazing ability to control everything on the cloud. Basically, let's say that you have this admin section that you want to add. You want to add a new user to your database, and you as an admin should only have the access to it. All you need to do is just control the database here and add some data on the cloud without having to make any code change to your application or anything of that sort. So one important thing that you need to know is that Firebase is completely free. You don't have to pay any money. As you can see, as soon as you create a simple project, it opens you up with a Spark free $0 plan. You can click on upgrade and you can add and you can do things like this. But for now, everything is free as long as you are keeping it minimal. If you keep it for about 10,000 users, I guess that's the number. It's going to be the availabilities. That's how you will be using. So we're going to be trying to connect our Flutter application to this Firebase, and you will see as to how this can be very, very useful. All right, let's go back to our code. We have added 2 things here. We have added Firebase core and Firebase database, and as soon as you do this, it will say that you need to do a pub get. So click on pub get and it will automatically pull all the dependencies that you need for this application to work, and we'll just complete with that. Right, let's go back to our real-time database part and click on this real-time database right here, and you will be taken to this new page where they'll say that you need to create a database. You can only create one database per account, so make sure to have that as well. You can even have multiple fields and things like that inside it, but we are going to be looking to add one database for now. So click on create database and it will say that you need to choose location. Locations are pretty much useful when you have a target audience of a specific country. Let's say you're building only for India, or let's say you're building only for European countries, or if you are trying to build or target the North American, South American countries, things like that are there, right? We are not worried about the database location at this point of time because it's almost real time, but you can choose it based on where you are. So it basically has US, Europe, and Asia. So this is going to be the bunch of things that they're giving when you're opening this free plan. So just leave it as default and just click next. And this is another interesting thing which you would definitely need to know. What the logged mode and the test mode do is that In the locked mode, you have this ability to have everything controlled. Nobody can add or data to your database. Nobody can read things from your database unless they are a verified application, meaning they have an instance of the application running and they are actually able to connect to the application or connect to the database. Only then they'll be able to read and write. This will happen when you are trying to release the application into the Play Store or App Store. If you're not targeting releasing applications at this point of time, just trying to prototype stuff, just leave it to test mode where anybody can write, anybody can read. So that those are the rules that automatically get set. So let's click enable, and it will finish enabling and giving us a very simple DB, which is going to be stored in the form of a JSON. And that's also another important thing. So real-time databases are not going to be specifically stored in any kind of a SQL way. SQLs have tables, they have rows, they have columns, and that's actually the traditional way how databases are created. But with the upcoming web apps that are actually storing more and more data, they want to have a very simple way of storing data. And what the Firebase database gives us is this ability to store it in the form of a JSON. JSONs are simple dictionary values where you have a key, you have a value, you have a key, you have a value. So let's try doing something like this here. So you want to add a database value, right? Click on this plus and it asks for a name and it's asking for a value. These are the only two things it will ask you for. Let me give some name like user student name, and I'll just give my name as Coder Monk, something like that. And I click on add and it will add the value right here. So as you can see, it is adding the student name and it is adding a value, and you can continue adding as many number of data and fields that you want to. Click on this, it will delete. It will say that all data at this location, including nested data, will be permanently deleted. So I'm okay with that. So I'm just going to delete it and it will come back to none. So we are going to try to do this from our Flutter application, right? All right, so next, let's go back to the Android Studio, and we're going to be doing some kind of a pre-processing, or I should say setting up work. So the first thing you're going to do is to go to your Android folder that is automatically created by Flutter. Just click on this Android folder and you'll find that inside your app and inside your source, inside your main. So I'll just zoom it in for you guys. So you'll find that it's Android app source main. You have something called as an Android manifest.xml. Click on this file and you will find that it's actually giving a name. Do not worry about any of this sort, any of these things here. It's something that we are not worried about at this point of time. So inside this one, you see that there is something called as a package. Every manifest file will definitely have a package, and only with the package name does the Google, when you're releasing it to App Store, right? When you're releasing those stuff into App Store, it will know that you need to have this basically present, and that's how it will identify your application. So when we wrote or when we created this project, we gave a name like Flutter Profile App. So this is going to be the package name. So make sure to copy it and go back to the Firebase part, and we need to set up our project. So go back to Firebase here, click on this, and it'll take some time, and you will find that there is three important fields here. The first is iOS, Android, and web. We are going to be setting up the Android app because that's the emulator that we are running. You can set up your iOS app in a similar fashion. Just click on Android app and it will take you to a simple page like this. It will say register your application, and the important key that it is asking for is the package name. So paste the one that you copied from the application, and you can give it a name if you want to. I'm just going to give it like an assignment to app. Need not be the same as your project name. It could be anything. Just give it an app nickname so that the application knows, or the Firebase knows, that this app is actually going to be good. All right, so this is another important one, but not very important at this point of time. What happens, or what do you do when you're releasing an application to an API, when you're releasing an application to the Play Store? When you're releasing applications to the Play Store, you'll be doing something called as a sign. When you what the sign says is that it's actually giving a unique name or unique data, basically similar to a signature that you do on your check or on your or some document and things like that. It's going to be unique to you, and that way it identifies who is the person who created it. And debug signing is very important if you want to have if you want to release it to the application Play Store, but we are not going to be releasing anything, so you can necessarily leave it. And once you're done with your Android package name, if you want to give a nickname, you can give. Click on the register app and it will give you a simple Google services.json file. And this Google services.json file is going to be the one single file that is going to act as the key for your application. So it is like client and the server. How do you identify who's the client, right? And this Google services, Google-services.json file is going to be doing that for us. Click on it, download it, and let it sit on, it's getting downloaded, and I just click on it, and now I'm going to be pasting it into my application. So where should you paste it? If you are going to be releasing an Android app, make sure to put it inside your Android app. So if you open an app, you can already have a Google services.json. So I'll just remove it quickly. Right, I'm going to be picking the one that I downloaded now, and I'm just going to drag it inside and put it inside my Android app folder. Don't put it anywhere else, or else it will not get understood, it will not get picked up. Always make sure to put it inside your app folder. So for our purpose, let's open it up and see. We have a bunch of unique identifiers. Basically, this is how it will identify who your application is and who is your client. Is he an authorized client? And it will be able to understand, okay, this person is authorized, so he can access my DB, and things like that can happen. So let's say that this is the one. So this is going to be a project number. It will automatically get created. We don't have to worry about that at all. And you'll also find that there's a bunch of API keys and things like that are also being automatically created. And this is the one way for it to identify, yes, this person is able to access the Firebase. All right, so you have done with those two steps, and it'll go back to the setup part, and just click on next, and it will say that we need to add a few dependencies. And it says that in order to add dependencies, this is how the Android application is going to get created. We cannot there is no one place for doing it for both iOS and Android. If you want to set it up for Android, these are the steps, and similarly there'll be a bunch of steps for iOS as well. Same way, it will tell you where to put it, and you just need to follow the steps. So I'm just showing you guys for the Android part, and what it says that go to project level build Gradle. So it means that go to project, and inside that there's a folder called build.gradle, and inside that you just need to make sure that these data are present. Let me open it up quickly, and I'm just going to show how this thing works. Close this up, and it says that inside your project Gradle. So project Gradle is basically, this is your project, and you open your Android folder, and there is a Gradle.properties right there. So sorry, there's a build.gradle right there. Yeah, it's here. Click on this build.gradle, and you'll find that there are few things that is present. First, it says that inside the build script repositories, check if Google is there. So I'm checking inside build script repositories, Google is there. Okay, one check for us. The second step, it says that inside the dependencies folder, check if this class path is present. And I'm going to quickly check. Yes, this is also present. We added it yesterday, so it's obviously present. Check the versions. Versions are very important. If you are doing it and the new version like 4.3.9 has released, make sure to paste it right there, and all those things will automatically get updated right here. Finally, we have the all projects, and the repository should have Google as well. Check if that is there. Yes, that is also present. Good. One step is completed. Close the build.gradle and move to the next step. The next step, it says that you need to add a project app module build.gradle. So there's two different Gradles, one for the project itself and one for the app, which means that we need to go inside the app folder, and inside our app folder there's a build.gradle. Go inside that and check few things as well. Don't worry about the min SDK, target SDK, or anything of that sort. Check if there is an apply plugin of com.android.application. Is it present? You check, and yes, it's present. And finally, also check if the Google services plugin is present, and yes, that is also present. So you have two things that are present, and you are good to go. Finally, make sure to add the dependencies as well. Inside the dependencies, you should have the com.google.firebase dependency implemented. Just copy it from here and paste it right there. So we have all the steps present, and we're just going to click next, and we're just going to close this thing up. So go to console back, and you have all the things present. And what you need to do now is just to once build your entire thing. So when you build your entire thing, that's when the application is going to get it's going to do a build.gradle from the base. It'll just do a Gradle build, and that's when the Flutter applications is going to be connected to the Firebase. So make sure to build it at least once, because if you just do just a hot reload, it will not work, and that's also another important point. Right, let's check if the Gradle build is fine. The terminal. Yep. All right, so the syncing file is done. Run main.dart. First we'll stop it, and we'll try to do a complete build. build it to this phone, which is my emulator. If you have another external phone connected, build it to that phone, and it should run the Gradle task assemble debug. So only if you run the Gradle task assemble debug, it will pick up all the changes that you made and it will establish the connection with the Firebase. So these are the simple steps, and once you have done with this, we can get started with writing the code for our application. All right, let's wait for the build Gradle task to complete. And we, just like I told, we have the task of creating 3 input fields, get the input from the user. And when the submit button is clicked, it should definitely go and update the data in the Firebase. That's what we're going to try to find out in this one. So let's wait for this to complete. Right. Yeah, it should complete it. Okay, it's going to definitely take some time. And in the meantime, I'll open for any questions. Probably can take some questions now, and then we'll carry on with the next step. So far we have done, we did see about this in the yesterday's session, but I want this to be a comprehensive one. So everybody who's watching this video can understand how to do it in a step-by-step manner. So I'll open for any questions that might come, and by the time that this Gradle task will get completed. All right, looks like the Gradle is completed and application has rendered fine. So nothing missing here, and you can just now start with the application itself. Let's get moving on. All right, so first thing that we need to do is to add an input field or get an input from the user. In Flutter, there is a very simple way to do that, which is actually to use something called as a text field. When you use a text field, it just gets text from the user. So let's try it out. You have the image right here. So I need to have the thing right after that. So I just need to say center, because everything should be centered, right? Center. Again, should have changed it. Sorry about that. Kind of lost my USB for a bit. So what we're going to do now is to add a text field and the decoration, and that decoration is going to have the field or the parameter called as hint text. All right, let's get moving on. The next step we're going to do is just check if it's working fine. So let me open up the emulator, which is right here. And it's successfully added my field. So it says input student name, number. I can add some data like this, and it'll just take the data as we want it to be. All right, so that's one. Next step we're going to do is to have similar fields, so similar text fields. So copy it and do a simple paste so that you can continuously add it. Just go here, add it, and another comma, add it. All right, so we have so far done student number, student number, student number, but I just want to change the date text as student assignment number, something like that. So assignment. My voice is not there. I guess it's working fine, right? It's working fine. Just give a thumbs up so I know. Assignment number, and the final one is going to be let's have it as date of birth or DOB. So let's check if this is working fine. So far everything looks fine, and I'm just going to click text next. All right, so we have added the student the value that's going to be the student number, assignment number, and date of birth. So this is successful, and next step we are going to do is to get this data and put it into our Firebase. We already have the PubSpec created, so we should be able to handle all of that. And once you have the PubSpec completed, just do these two imports. First import that you're going to do is from the packages Firebase database, import the Firebase database. So then the next one is going to be import package Firebase core, import the Firebase core.dart. So these are two important packages that we definitely need. Only if you have that, you can be confirmed that this is going to be connecting with our Firebase application, right? Okay, everything looks good so far. Let me actually reduce it so that you guys can see this as well on the side. Right, code looks good, right? Hopefully this is legible enough for you guys to see. All right, let's move on. So we have done both of these stuff, both of these import statements, and post that we just need to have a mechanism to get the data from all of these things. And text field, if you have a text field, you should have something called as a controller. And if you go inside text field, you will find that it is actually able to take a parameter called as a controller. And this controller is nothing but a simple variable which when created you can get the data from that specific text field. So for the text field, for the controller, we should be making use of a class called as the input controller. So we just create a final variable. I'll call it as student controller, and you just need to instantiate it with controller. We just need a text editing controller, or we can be done with that as well. We'll just use the text editing controller and we will be done. So we need three controllers because we have three fields. So we'll create another controller called as assignment controller, text editing controller, and the final one is going to be database or date of birth controller. So I'll call it as DOB controller, text editing controller. Yeah, created. So all these controllers are successfully created. So all we need to do is just assign each text field with one controller. So this is going to be controller, pass the parameter as this one, which is going to be student controller. Next one is going to be the input decoration for the assignment controller. So we just need to pass it as assignment controller. Finally, the date of birth is going to come. So we'll just call it as the DOP controller. All right, so all these things, three things are done. Now, how do you get this data from this value? I'm typing some data like 554466, and how do I get the data from this on button press? So you can go to your button, which is we've created already, which is an elevated button. Yes, that's true. So the controller, as the name suggests, is to have or give a lot of control to the text field. If you create a text field, you can have control like what is the size of the text field, if you want to know what is the data that the user has typed, and even if you want to know it by keystroke, right, you can get that as well. So all of those functions are possible with the help of a controller, and that's why we are creating a controller right here. So we just need the controller to have access to what the data that user is typing. So for just testing purpose, let's quickly go here and test how the student controller's data is working. Just say student controller dot text, and it will just print the text that we need. So just check for the assignment controller as well. So we'll just test if that is working as expected. Save this up and just go here and type some data like student number is going to be 5577 UF, some data, and assignment number is going to be like 112233. Date of birth is like 0101 1994. I don't know. Just click on this and submit data, and you will find that this data is going to be present right here. All this data is getting printed, and this is what we are expecting. So that's successful. We have created a simple controller to get all the data. All we need to do now is just to pass this data to the Firebase. Right, let me remove this quickly. And like I told you in the top, we already have two things, right? We have the Firebase core and the Firebase database setup. So in order to get the Firebase Firebase to start up, we need to have this Firebase app getting initialized. So I will already done in the void main. I've actually done something called as widgets flutter binding dot ensure initialized, meaning that it should wait for all the flutters binding to get initialized. After that, we just need to say Firebase app dot initialize app. We just need to say wait for the Firebase initialization to complete, and then you can start the whole application. So this is the first line that you need to add in your main. Make sure to add it in your main itself, because once the application gets started, even before the application is getting rendered, we need to have the application or the Firebase to get initialized. So this is the first line that you need to add in your main method. Go back to your screen one, that is the screen one, which is going to be this one right here. We just need to now say handle all this stuff, right? So we are going to be using two variables here. The first variable you're going to use is going to be something called as the Firebase itself. I'll just call it as Firebase object or something like that. And you just need to say we are going to be creating a Firebase database object. So just say Firebase database dot instance. We need to get the instance of the database first. And once the instance has been obtained, we can now get a reference for that instance. So what is an instance? Yesterday also I told about this, but we are using something called as a Singleton pattern. Every time a Firebase database is created and we want to connect to the database, it is going to take some time for the initialization to happen, right? So what this is doing smartly is to have it once connected, and every time after that it will just return that same instance to you. So instances of an object are basically the memory location of it, and where is it located, and what are the objects or what are the parameters it's holding. That's what an instance mean for that specific object, and it will just return the same thing that got created once. Every single time after that, you will just be using it, and you will be happily going forward with it. So it's going to be giving you speed, it's going to reduce the memory, it's also increasing the process time. So those are the three things that is possible when you have an access to the instance, and it's important that we are getting access to the instance. Next step, inside your build method, before you return the scaffold, create another variable called as reference. And what this reference does is that it's going to be creating a reference object of that instance. Only if you have the reference object, you will be able to do something like set, you can create, you can push, you can read, you can update and delete, and all of those things are possible. So once the reference is created successfully, we can do a lot of different things. So time to test this now. We need to now push this data inside our Firebase. We have the Firebase real-time database present right here. So we should be getting the data, whatever we are pushing, right inside this location. So let's go on. We start inside our on button press. When the on button press is successfully clicked, we need to first say push some data. So I'm going to try with some sample data. First, I'll try with this reference dot child of. So whatever child of you're putting, it's saying that's actually going to be the path, and this path is nothing but what is going to be present here. Let's say that you have a bunch of different use cases. Say for example, you want to create a database for storing the student information separately. You want to save the assignment information as to what are the grades that the student is getting separately. All of those things in a SQL database or in SQL database, you will be creating it in the form of a table. So every table will have a row, every table will have a bunch of columns, it will have rows as the value, and things like that are going to be there. But what this Firebase does is that everything are going to be in the form of a path. You need to give the path, or what is the path under which your JSON should be present, and that will automatically get here. So if you go here and create a field here, it will first ask for a name, it will ask for a value. Whatever value name you are giving is the first path, and that's where the data is going to be present. So we'll go here and we'll give a path, and for the path, I'm just going to say it or name it as student or assignment information. So I want it to be one time created, meaning that it should be present only once, and every single time all the data that I'm going to be pressing after on button press should go inside that path. So just once you're creating a child, just say put or set. Set is basically where you are going to be putting some data, or settings basically creating a new record of that data. So set can take any number of values. It should primarily take a string, and it can also take a dictionary or in the sense a JSON file. So we'll just start with the first value, which is going to be student number, and we have the controller from here, right? So we'll just take student controller, and we'll say the data as student controller dot text. Make sure to always have it in the string format. It should be string, colon, any value here, either string, integer, float, or boolean value. The next one is going to be the assignment number, and I'm just going to pass the data from the assignment controller dot text. Finally, we're going to be having the date of birth of the user. So I just say dob controller dot text. So we have three data information, and we should, when this button is clicked from our emulator, it should just put the data into my database. That's what I'm trying to find. So save it up, it let it do a hot reload. Okay, hot reload is completed. So we'll just now test if that works fine. All right, let's open this up. We are going to be now putting some data. Let's put some data for probably I'll write it as which one? This one? Yes, this, all this data that you're going to type from here are user defined input values. So user defined input values are getting via the controller and just calling the text on it, meaning that whatever data is going to be present, it's going to be converted to a string and going to return to us. And from there on, we are just going to be saving it up and into these specific keys. These specific keys are created by us. Only we know what these keys are, and we just want it to be in that specific format. If you have it in some other format, probably it will break the entire database, right? You need to have the database in a specific format. Only then you will know how to read it, how to update it, and do things on that. So this is going to be the step for that. Have your student number, have your assignment number, and only then you will be able to create it. So inside your student number, you're just putting whatever the user is entering. Have inside the assignment number field, you are putting whatever the user is entering, and similarly for the database, date of birth as well. All right, let's open this up again. I'm just going to type some value like 1 similar to JSON. Exactly right. It's similar to a JSON. So I'm just going to type a student number, for example, student. I just type number. I don't even know what my college number was. Let me 45331230, some random number. And in assignment number, I'm just giving some random assignment number, and I'm also giving some random date of birth. So click on it, and when I click on the submit data, it should actually update the data right here. So what does it say? It says some error. No, it's actually successful. It's successfully sent the data, and I need to be seeing this right now. Why is it not coming? All right, taking some time to load. I guess that's what happens when you're trying to use a free. All right, it says unable to load database. Let me try it again. Oops, what is happening? Something happened, guys. The Firebase itself is not able to load. All right, I think there was some kind of a database storage issue. Let me try it again. Same data, click on submit, and it should be loading the data right. All right, I know why this is not happening. No, logout should not work. I mean, you should actually run the application again from scratch. Make sure to always build it. This is actually the issue that happened yesterday also. If you don't build your application, what happens is that it does not get to understand what are the things that you changed, especially when you're trying to create an instance of everything, right? If you don't do that, it will not understand what is going to be the data that needs to be stored. So make sure to do that. Hot reload is a boon as well as a bane. Sometimes you're thinking why it is not happening, and it just keep on, it'll just confuse you to the core. It loaded successfully. Let's wait for it to load, and we will. Yeah, this should work fine now. Great. So let's try it again from scratch. I have the user student number as 112233. Assignment number is going to be something like 145433. Some date of birth 01/01/1990. Submit data. should have loaded it by now. There is no error also getting thrown. So I'm guessing that it's actually some instance issue with the Firebase that is being present here. So let's try to reload it once again. Or let's check once the rules as well. The rules should be probably present correctly. All right, the rules are probably present correctly. Why is it happening? Let me check the app that we created yesterday. This is also one another problem that might happen. We had this one, right? If the Google Ad services are actually linked to that one, it might throw the error from there also. Oops. So this information is present right here. I'll tell you why and what happened. So what we did yesterday was create a Google Services JSON file, right? And inside that file, it had information as to what app was connected and what has to be connected and things like that. And by mistake, since we are using the same project and I created a new project for just to show for you guys to get started from the basics, it is picking that project and saving the data in that real-time database. So basically, these are two different projects, but during the setup, what happened was I kind of like gave the same project name, the package name, and it is picking this up and storing the data inside this. So which is basically not what we want. So once check the Google services.json, it should clearly tell what is the issue. It's actually going to the assignment to app. Looks fine, but I think it is picking it up from the data from the emulator that we sent in. So we need to clean wipe the application. We need to stop this and need to clean wipe the emulator to get this thing back up again. So bunch of things that we're learning on the fly as well. So go to your AVD manager. We need to probably do a wipe data and then start the emulator up again, and it will pick up it should be picking up the database that we have right now. So it will definitely take some time, so I just don't want to waste the time there, but you guys get the idea, right? This is how you should be doing. I'll just close the previous app and continue talking about what is happening and what you can do with the current application or the current page. So we have done so far the push or the set operation. Basically, we're just doing this to put data inside the Firebase database. The next thing we need to do is to read some data from the Firebase database. No, that is not the issue that is happening actually, Sumit. So the issue that is happening is because we are using the same emulator. The data that is inside the application is getting picked from the previous one. So that way what happens is that it is misunderstanding that this needs to connect to the yesterday's Firebase project that we built. Usual error that might happen, I'm not going to question it. That is also, like I said, a good and bad thing with Flutter reload. Hot reload often does that. So let's build it up again and just let it run in the background. I'll talk about for now the use, or how do you use the read method. How do you read unique keys in the database? Which one you're asking for? This one? Okay, so Firebase table basically has there is no concept of tables in Firebase. So everything is going to be a JSON. If you see here, everything is going to be a JSON. And let me remove these two and this two as well, this as well. Now, what you need to understand with Firebase is that everything is going to be in the form of a flat file. Now, flat files are a simpler way of putting things rather than having it in the form of a column, having it in the form of row, and it's actually adding a lot of confusion to the database itself. So what Firebase came up with as a solution was to have a mechanism to have everything in the form of a JSON. Now, if you want to have or uniquely identify which place this data should go to, you'll first add a key. And that key will have a bunch of data inside it. You can add another key inside it. You can just say plus, and you can add a name and value. You can have a nested JSON. So JSON is basically a mechanism of transferring data from one place to another. And they're using the same concept for storage as well. Let's say you want to have another table in the SQL. If you were using SQL, you'll be aware of the concept of table. Let's say you want to create another table. The equivalent of table here is a key. So you'll just add another key. Probably I will say like student information is there. So I'll just say student names and I'll just create it first. without any value. Just add the student name. I'll just have some data like this. I'll put it like student, or I'll have names like this. Coder Monk. I'll have another data like, probably I'll have data like my name itself, and I'll just click on add. If you see here, it's automatically giving an index to it and it's adding the value. So this is also another way of doing things. You don't have to worry about the concept of tables, rows and columns. It'll automatically add everything that you need, and everything is uniquely identified by the path. So this is going to be the path. You will just, if you click on this, it'll open up the path that you need to go to. So this is going to be just a link. You'll just hit this link and you'll get the data from there. So that's how simple it is to store data in Firebase, and that's also a unique way of storing data. You don't have to necessarily think about storing it in a table, column. How do you do that? Add all these SQL queries and get the data from that. It's kind of complex and also redundant in the time of the increasing in web apps, so where it's no longer required. So that's why this is actually a simpler way of storing data. And it is also going to obviously add the complexity of how to structure your data specifically. Most often you will find that after you are done with almost 80% of the application, you will find it's super difficult to store the data and get the data. So you need to make sure to always write the data down. What is the data that I'm going to put inside Firebase, and how do I structure it properly? What is the key? What is the value? What is the path that it's going to go to? So that way you'll be pretty much sure that, okay, this is where I'm going to get the data from, and things like that. All right. All right, so next step, we're going to look, we have already done something called as a set operation, wherein every set operation is uniquely going to put a value. You can for now see here, let me write the student name number. I'll just update the student number like 1455433, and I'll have the same number again, 112233, and the date of birth again as 01/01/1990. Right? Click on this and submit data. You will find that it's going to be updating the data alone. It's just adding the data back to the same place. It's smarter enough to understand that there's already a key of that value. There's already a student number of that value. So I'm just going to update that data alone. And that's basically what the set operation does. Now let's say that you want to have unique, or if you want to push the data irrespective of what the data is already there. You're basically now trying to push whatever data the user is sending. So you will be having a new value or new method called as push. Same reference, same child. You just say reference of child, and you just have an action like push. Right? Just say push. Save this up. Just say push. And just update the value that you wanted to push. So it says that what is the key that you want to push, what is the child path, and what you want to push exactly inside it. So you will basically say just reference dot push dot. Now you will say set. All right, instead of child, you will just say push here. It will not take anything. Just say push, save it up, and should be hot reload by now. So let's assume it's hot reloaded. Now I'll just have some other change like one like this, and I'll go here and I'll try to submit data. When I do that, you'll find it's actually creating one unique identifier. It'll create its own key and push the data, irrespective of what you want to do. Irrespective of what, if you want to do an update, you should specifically state where exactly you want it to update. If you're not worried about an update, you just want to put the data every single time, which is basically the create operation in the database terms. You just want to create data all the time. You just use the push operation and use the set on it. If you want to update some data, you will just say what child you want to update it from. So this is going to be the child, and you'll just say in this child update this data, and you will just give the update for it. So for now, we have seen two operations. One is the create one and the update one. The next one you're going to do is to do something called as a read operation. Now you've put the data inside it. What if you want to read the data back and show it to the user? That's what we're going to try to do now. Any questions so far, guys? If you have any questions, let me know. Right, let's move on. All right, so far, like I said, we have done is push the data and create, and we have updated the data. 2 operations are done out of 4. So basically in database terms, we have 4 important operations: create, read, update, and delete. So create, like you have seen, is to create is to always create a new data irrespective of what is present or what is not present. Next is read. We will see about it now. The third is update, which is to update whatever data is already present inside the DB. If you just simply want to update what is present, you will just call the update data and it will go find the key. So it will always need to have the key or the child or the location, something like this. Some information needs to be passed. Only then it will be knowing what to update. And finally is the delete operation. You simply want to delete all the information and you will just call the delete on it. I'll show that as well. So let's time to look into the read operation. Now you're successfully looking to read some data from the database back. So let's try to do the read operation on the second screen. Now we have sent the data from the first screen, but I want to read some data on the second screen. So look into having the same reference, have the same reference again from here. Make sure to have the same database reference. So in the second screen, have the variable created. And inside our update, even before the scaffold is created, create the reference again. Firebase object.reference, create an object of that, and you will try to now show the data back to the user. So how do you do that? So we already have a future builder present. So we already had showing all the data in the form of future builder. So inside the future builder, we are going to be returning the data as to your assignment number, your user ID, and all of those are going to be present. Additionally, what I'm also going to do is if the snapshot has data, meaning we are now fetching the data from the internet. This was done probably in a couple of live streams back. We do not have to worry about it. So what I'm going to do is to have a mechanism to read the data, right? So I'll just say, I just need to have a method. So I'll just create a method, simple method, just to read some data. I'll just say void print database value, something like this. And if you call this method, it should print the value. So I'm just going to say whatever the user is passing, we need to have the database reference, right? So we'll just call it as we'll have a parameter as a reference, and if the user is passing that, you should be able to have it once. So we'll just say reference dot once. This is the syntax for that. Then if the reference is successful, then what you do is handle as method or call a method. This is going to be a data snapshot. That's the parameter, or that's the class that we need, and the snapshot is going to be sent, and we just have to create the method inside it. And inside this, we will now try to say or read whatever data that we have. So just for now, just to print, and the data is going to be, we can either do a dollar reference or just say snapshot dot value dot to string. Right, this is also fine. Now all we need to do is just call this method pretty much inside our future builder. If the data is loaded, we'll just try to print the data once, and we need to pass the reference that we had created. So hopefully you guys understand the flow here. We have a reference object only inside the build method. So what we're trying to do is create a method, just a simple modelization that we're doing. And inside the reference, we are saying reference once the reference is completed loading, then you execute this method. Inside this method, we're just saying print whatever data is coming. So we'll just now try and see. Make sure to, I don't think we do need to have a stop and start. Go back. Let's again continue with the set operation itself. Submit. And we should be having the data being rendered. So if you see here, this is the data that I wanted to show. I'll just zoom it in. And if you see, it's very clearly loading all the data that is being set on the database. So if you take a look into this itself here, so this is basically what is present. So we have this field, it's coming right here, right? And this another field here, it's coming right here. And similarly, there's another field, assignment information, and it is also being present right here. So it's able to read all the data from that, and it's also sending it in the form of a JSON. So we can just now say inside my data, find my assignment number path and get all the data inside that from me. So this is a simple mechanism to read the data, and you can then easily load it into a container. You can put it in the form of text, and you'll be able to do it pretty much right from there. Hopefully you guys did get that part. Any questions till now, guys? All right, so I'm gonna Sumit is asking a question as to how do you structure a data successfully. Now that is actually another class on itself on how do you successfully create and structure datas, and how do you design systems. So that's the topic of system designs. How do you possibly create good designs so that you don't have to make multiple changes in the future. But the simplest way is to always have a pen paper approach. Start with the pen paper, understand what the use of the application is going to be, and then you start as to what is the information that I'm going to get from the user. And you do not give any mechanism or give do something just for this just for that moment. When you do just for that moment without thinking bigger enough, you'll obviously end up having to structure and restructure your database multiple times. So one simple quick information or technique that is to always make sure to have a pen paper approach. Start with the pen paper, understand how that structuring works, and what information you're going to get from the user, what information you're going to throw into the user, and that way you'll have a very good way of understanding how to store data. So all right, so any questions so far here, guys? We have create, we have seen update, and we've also seen the read operation. So reading operation is very simple again with Flutter. Just do once call on it and you are successfully reading the data. The final is the delete operation, which by now you would have guessed. If you want to delete a simple path, just say delete that specific path for me, which I'm going to tell now. All right, no questions. Looks like there's no questions. So let's get moving on for the final operation, which is to delete the data. Deleting data is very simple. You do the same stuff again. Let's say on a button click, you want to delete all the information from the user. Instead of just putting the data, you just want to delete the information. You will say reference dot, you will just say, for example, get, you get some specific path. In this one, I'll try to get the assignment info reference dot. Let me quickly check that. Yes, so for update, we are going to just push the data into the database. So what we are doing is just pushing every time. When you say push on something, it'll just push the data inside it. There is no concept of having a new field or anything of that sort. If you particular field, that's what. So if you want to update a particular field, you will probably say child. Let me show that also. Go do child operation here. You will pass the path here, right? You will pass the path in such a way that you will understand what to update. If you say the path is going to be assignment information info, and you just call a set on it, but make sure to have the data changed in such a way. The Firebase is it'll automatically understand what is the data that you want to change. If there is a new data that you want to change, specifically, let's say that you want to change the student number alone, you just change the student number here, and inside that path, whatever field is already present, it will get updated. You're able to understand, right? If you want to have multiple fields, right? Let's say you want to have another field, another nested field inside your assignment information. You just split it by child slash some other field name. For example, you have another field like student information that is inside that. You'll just say assignment information slash student information, and then you will set the data. So it will automatically update that specific value. So let's try it. I'm trying to update only the student number for this is present here. So I just say student number set. I'll go here, go back. I'm not worried about any of this data, just trying to update the student number alone. I'll just call, for example, this is the one, right? Just change it to 2. Go here. We need to now technically try to change this value. So that's what should happen now. Click on tick. Oh my God. I by mistake added another field. So it's trying to push that field inside it. So I shouldn't have done that. I should have just set student number alone. So let's do this. Back, show it here and update it to 4. 5 is good. Click this. All right, so what is happening is completely removing that field and updating the data that you want it to be inside that specific field. So basically that's how the update works. So this, you specify the path here, it will update all the data inside it. If you want to specify another specific path inside it, you create that path and then you keep on updating the value inside it. So all you can think about is to have it in the form of a key and a value. The key is the path and the value is whatever you're passing. The value could be a JSON, it could be a simple string, everything of that sort can be passed. And whatever you're passing will get updated inside that specific key value. So basically that's how the update works. And this is similar to the put operation that you do in a remote REST API creation. And that's how this entire thing works. So all right, let's now try to remove this data. Let's try, I'm not very comfortable with having this field. I want to remove this field on press. So what I'm going to do now is to let it run, let this thing run. I just call reference start a child, and I know the path. The path is basically the student name. So I'll just copy it. I'll just pass it on, say, the path. I just call the method remove and I'll leave it at that. So you can just say remove, and if you want to add another callback on top of it, you can do it. But if you just call the remove, it will just remove that entire path. So try to run this application. I'll show it here. I'll add some data again. I'll just add some data like 3. I just want to remove this field now. That's my goal. Submit this data, and as you can see, it is instantly removing it from my DB. So everything is in the form of a key and value. Always make sure to have, if you want to read some data, just use child of. You can use nested child of as well. You can say this one is there, right? You can say dot another child on top of it. So you can even have multiple child paths. You can just give a nested format and give multiple fields and go down to the last value and still remove it. So let's try that as well for once. Let's say I want to have let's say I want to add a field here. I'll say student number, and I'll have another value as I'll just pass it like this, student name, or student number is not there, class, so this, and inside this I'll have a value like 23. So I want to specifically remove this class only. I'm okay being present. Let's have another one. I'll have another key as let's have another key probably as a section. I don't really know what I'm typing, but okay, some data, right? There's another field data called a section. I just want to remove only the student class only. How do I do that? Just use another child of. You can go one step below it and just pass on the class here. So that means that it'll remove only the class from here. So just open your emulator back up again and submit the data, and what's happening? All right, read the data. All right, I think it's loading. Reference dot child student name is correct. Yes, student number. Student number. I gave the wrong path. Student number, right? Student number and then a class. Save it up. Come back here, and we'll try to do it. One for some data, I just pass it like 6, and I'm trying to submit the data, and voila, we have successfully removed a specific path by just going down one step by doing the child of operation. So you can do multiple child of operations and it'll be easy for us. So what did you ask for specifically? Okay, you're asking about specific update, right? You want to update this value only. and again you do another child of operation on it. So basically that's what the set or this is going to be useful for. You're trying to specifically ask for, let's say you have something like this date of birth, and the date of birth value is going to be 01/01/1995. All right, you want to know update only this value, is that correct? All right, how do you do that? Just do child of on it. You already have the student child, you already have the assignment information, it's going one step below it, and you need to go one step below it and just say child of, pass the dob, and instead of setting up the entire dictionary, we just need to set a new value. So it's going to be a string. Just pass the string here, which is going to be 01/01/95. Let's just say 01/01/1996, something like this. Save this up again, open your Flutter application, and you can see it for yourselves. Did I pass a hard-coded value? No, I should not pass a hard-coded value. I'll pass it something like this. I'll say dob controller dot text. All right, save this again. All right, now I'm trying to change whatever the user is trying to update. I'm not worrying about the string or anything of that sort. Instead of 1995, this value should be whatever I'm entering here. So I'll enter 2, and you can see for yourself how the update works. All right, you got it right. So that's how you update a specific value. You go one step below it, you find the child, and then you update that value. So this is where the concept of system design comes into picture. You need to understand how can I keep it easier for me so that I can update, I can read, I can delete, I can even create new values without having to do anything like externally adding more child of operations. You need to keep it as light as possible, and at the same time you need to also have a bigger picture understanding. So this is where the project planning comes into picture. So you'll go one step deeper and you'll just do a lot of stuff inside that as well. All right, so that brings the end to the Flutter Firebase Masterclass. So I just talked about 4 operations: create, read, update, and delete, on how do you connect it with your Firebase and how do you do that operations. And it's pretty much a very simple game from here on. You can do a bunch of things, like you can add data, you can save data, you can read it in the Flutter application. All of that is possible. Okay, let me open for another 2 minutes to wait for questions. And if there are no more questions, I'll probably be ending this stream right now. So let's open for any questions, guys. A bunch of people watching the stream, I guess. Okay, 3 people. All right, so that brings the end of this session. So I'm actually doing a class this Sunday on the topic of creating servers. So basically you're going to be creating something called a RESTful server, and this is going to be running on the Unacademy platform. So do check that out, and you'll be having to get a much better understanding of how do you create web servers. So web servers are going to be like the backbone for any kind of a UI. If you have a better understanding of creating front end and things like that, you should definitely have a better understanding of creating UIs, and it's going to be having much better use for it. So this is going to be on the Unacademy platform, like I've been telling, and you can use it and you can just access that and have a better understanding of it. This is happening on this Sunday at 5 p.m. So make sure to check me out there. Yeah, so the next session is planned for Monday. This Monday session is also going to be the Flutter itself. You're going to be having a Flutter local DB. How do you do stuff on the local DB, and what is the plugin and how you connect and things like that for the local DB. And as far as the Dart classes are concerned, I'm coming up with a full week on that. So you'll be having probably 5 or 10 classes on Dart specifically on one specific week, which is going to be happening starting Monday from next week, not this week. So you have from probably 16th of August. That's when I have planned things. So you'll have that class running from 16th of August. So hopefully you will have a bunch of classes scheduled for the entire week, and you can just join them and understand everything that is to understand from scratch. So you'll be doing it like from basics of Dart, understanding how objects work, how everything works, and you will have a much better understanding of how to connect and delve deeper into Dart as well as we go into that session. Hopefully, I've answered all of your queries, and check me out on the Sunday live session on the Unacademy platform. I'll see you guys probably then, and probably that's bringing me to end of this session. Have a good day, guys. I'm going to close the session now. Thanks again for joining, everybody. Thanks, Sumit, for staying to the end of the session. Good luck, buddy. See you guys. Tata. Yes, so the plan is to do that. I've already done that, Sumit. So the plan is to just do that only. I'm going to be doing like a bunch of sessions where the Dart is in one session and the Flutter is another session. So it's going to be like that. That is the plan that I've had. I'll come up with the scheduling in some time. So all right, bye bye. See you guys. Take care. Have a good day.